Good morning, buenos días, ¿cómo estamos? Bien, qué bueno. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Representative David Borrero. I'm a state representative over West Miami-Dade County. I would like to thank everyone for being here. I want to give a special thanks to our speaker, Paul Renner, who was so supportive in allowing this day to happen and opening up all of just the opportunities and the resources we need just to be able to celebrate Colombian-American Day here today. I want to go ahead and just start real quick with just a quick moment of an invocation. If we can all just bow our heads for a moment, just to thank the Lord for the opportunity to be here. So, Heavenly Father, just thank you for this day, Colombian-American Day, and the opportunity just to gather here today. Thank you for safety. Thank you that we live in the greatest country in the world. We ask, God, that you would bless all of our first responders, bless all of our armed forces, that you would protect us. And just thank you again for the opportunity to be here today. I pray this in the name of your Son. Amen. So, as you might have thought, I'm Colombian-American. I was born to two Colombian immigrants who are from Cartagena and from Barranquilla. And if you don't know the small towns, it's actually a bustling town. And Cartagena is a very historic town on the coast of Colombia. And they say that costeños son muy pachangueros. So the people from the coast are very lively and they like to party. And, you know, we're very proud of if you talk to Colombians, we're very proud of our Colombian heritage. Many of us say that que nuestra sangre churre amarillo, azul y rojo, that our blood, it drips the blue, red, and yellow. And, you know, we're very proud because of what we know what we have and our heritage has back home. There's a lot of similarities to Americans that Colombians have. And when you hear their stories, you'll know these are very hardworking people who come over here. And many people who are coming over here are fleeing, unfortunately, some of the sad things that socialism brings. And you know, my mother came over here a long time ago when I was 19, about 1985, and I was born in Queens, New York, and she came here just seeking better opportunities. She worked extremely hard. She was cleaning houses, and you know, I was, you know, strapped to the back of her back in a backpack while she was working hard, learning English, and she was able to work her way up the ladder. She got a certificate in customer service and became, you know, one of the top selling producing sales managers for a Fortune 500 company, and I learned from that experience. So a lot of the Colombian immigrants that are coming over here are hard workers and those who are looking to achieve the American dream. And so we're very proud to be called Colombian Americans as immigrants and recognize where we came from. And so today is really just about the opportunity to recognize our, you know, Colombian Americans in our state, our heritage. You know, like I said, we're very proud of who we are. We're a growing community, one of the largest growing communities, not just throughout Florida, but throughout the United States. Actually, there are one statistic from a few years ago, it's probably a lot higher from then, but one statistic said that there's 1.6 million Colombian Americans throughout the entire country. And so Colombian Americans represent the 24th largest diaspora throughout the United States. So we're a growing population, and you can literally get a taste of Colombia at the end of this reception. There's going to be some light refreshments and food served outside, and be sure to try the delicious pan de bono. So at this time, I'm going to just give an introduction here to the Honorable Carlos Diaz Rosillo, who is he's the founding director of the Adam Smith Center at FIU, the Center for Economic Freedom. He's going to be our moderator today as we sort of guides the conversation, and we're honored to have him here today. He's an educator, accomplished administrator, political and policy entrepreneur, strategist, public commentator. He's a former Harvard professor and dean at Harvard, former director of policy in the White House for President Trump, former acting assistant secretary of defense at the Pentagon, and as I said, he's now the founding director of the Adam Smith Center for Economic Freedom. So without further ado, I want to invite Carlos Diaz Rosillo to take the podium and lead us in today's conversations. And thank you everyone again for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Representative Borrero, and thank you, Speaker Renner, for giving me the opportunity to be here. I'm thrilled and honored to be here with all of you. I want to take just a minute to tell you about the Adam Smith Center for Economic Freedom. We are a center created by the legislature of this great state just about 3 years ago. And we're at Florida International University. We are a world-class, independent, nonpartisan think tank, or rather a think and do tank, that aims to inform, to influence, and to inspire current and future leaders to develop and implement innovative, meaningful, and effective public policies that advance economic freedom and human prosperity. We have a number of public programs, events, but I want to highlight one of them that relates directly to President Uribe. We call it the Senior Leadership Fellows. It's a program that brings to the center, to Miami, 4 high-level former senior government officials at the highest levels. We typically have 1 former president, members of Congress, ambassadors, cabinet members, and they come to Miami and they teach not for credits. We call them study groups. These are opportunities for students to interact with these public servants, again, at the highest levels, and learn from them what they did well, the mistakes they made, and how they helped to advance economic and individual freedom in their communities. And President Uribe was one of these fellows a year ago, and we've had 7 former presidents, and I have to say his study group so far has been the most well-attended. There were people outside the room trying to get in to learn from President Uribe's amazing experience. That's just one of the many programs we have, and we're honored and we're grateful to the legislature for their support, for creating the center, for funding the center, and for being so supportive of the past 3 years. That's roughly what we do, and I wanted to take an opportunity to tell you about the center. Now I have the honor to introduce to you the speaker. I've been told that because time is limited, I have to keep the conversation going, so apologies in advance if I interrupt somebody whose title is speaker. But anyway, what can I say about the speaker? An amazing public servant, a Navy veteran, and the presiding officer of the Florida House of Representatives. Mr. Speaker.
Well, good morning to everyone. Thanks for being here. And one night we got back from an event. My wife said, you know, it'd be really neat. We should do a Colombian-American Day. And she is from the town of Tuluá in Colombia. I was born there and knew some people that knew the newly elected mayor. And we made some phone calls and then started talking about, man, wouldn't it be neat if we could get President Uribe to come? And so I think maybe David called Fabio. Fabio called the president. And here they are. And I will say this to you, if you took, and for the members that are here, if you took all the tough votes that we have taken in our legislative career and put them all together and poured them into a measuring cup titled political courage, it's nothing. Nothing compared to what the 2 men that you're going to hear from face each and every day. Imagine that to represent your country and do what you know is right, you're under physical threat to your life and your family's life every single day. And that is leadership. That is political courage. So today I hope we'll be able to explore a little bit with them the 2 paths that Colombia has taken, a good path represented by what President Uribe did and what Mayor Vélez hopes to do in Tuluá, that brought prosperity, that brought public safety, and the other path which President Uribe faced and overcame, and now Colombia regrettably faces again, which destroys public safety, destroys the economy, and it seeks to assert control over every aspect of our life. And so with that, I look forward to hearing from these gentlemen today and our program, and thank you again for being here. God bless you.
Thank you. And Mr. Speaker, if I may ask you a question, I'll be asking each of the speakers 1 or 2 questions. As the presiding officer of the Florida House of Representatives, you have the responsibility to create a culture of laws through your legislative process. You've traveled extensively. What lessons have you learned from what you have seen abroad that we can apply in the state of Florida to preserve economic and individual freedom?
You know, in the Garden of Eden, there was a false promise made to Adam and Eve. And I believe that human nature is what it is. We still want that irresistible hope for utopia here on earth where things are given to us for free, where all of our problems and burdens go away. And that is the promise, frankly, of the left. and yet everything they touch, they destroy. And so I've seen this in every country, and I think it applies globally. And the opposite is something that seems to sometimes be harder to achieve, which is liberty and political liberty, economic liberty, gross prosperity. It's grown more people out of poverty. It has established public safety, and we see in our own country those different paths and the outcomes for people. It's whether you want to make people's lives better or not, and not follow a false promise. And again, the gentlemen here today with us represent the very best of leadership, I think, in the Americas, because they are putting their love of country above their own safety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now I have the honor to introduce Mrs. Renner. The speaker introduced her yesterday at the session, and I've gotten to know her over the past couple of days, and she's really, really amazing. As we've heard, she's from Tuluá, Colombia, and I want to ask her, what does it mean to have these amazing Colombian leaders here with us today?
It means everything as a Colombian, as a patriota que soy, de mi tierra. Durante la presidencia de... ¿Puedo hablar en español?
Sí, claro.
Durante la presidencia del señor Uribe, Colombia estuvo en la mejor época. Haber dejado mi país después de que mis padres tuvieron toda clase de extorsión de parte de la guerrilla. Ellos tenían fincas cafeteras y pues se vieron obligados para que yo me dejara el país, para ellos estar tranquilos, y lastimosamente perdieron todo. Entonces, tener el señor presidente aquí conmigo. El señor presidente, usted siempre será mi presidente. El señor alcalde Vélez, gracias por estar aquí. Es un honor. De verdad es un sueño y es un llamado a todos los colombianos para que nos unamos y no dejemos que Colombia deje de ser esa Colombia hermosa, una tierra fértil, donde no solamente tenemos café delicioso, flores hermosas, o sea, tenemos tantas cosas que ofrecer y tenemos que dar el compromiso, todos, el vecino, los amigos, la familia, y tenemos también que apoyar líderes como ellos para que no perdamos nuestra Colombia, la libertad que tenemos allá. Eso significa todo. Gracias.
Let me ask you, you touched on this briefly, but what would you like Floridians to know about Colombia?
Oh gosh. Well, I don't want to brag about, but beautiful women.
The speaker agrees?
And we have wonderful coffee, delicious coffee. We have, like I say, family, las raíces, the roots, the Colombian roots that I came from. I never forget that. And right now, Floridians need to know that Colombia has a lot to offer, and we all need to compromise to make it better.
Thank you. Thank you for being such a strong advocate of Colombia in Florida, and thank you for bringing us all together here today. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like like to introduce another great Colombian-American, Fabio Andrade. Fabio is a great voice for Florida's Hispanic communities, and through his organization, Colombia-Habla US, he serves to connect Colombian-American communities with the rest of the state. I'm so pleased to welcome Fabio. And I want to ask you, you have a unique perspective from talking with and working with thousands and thousands of community members in South Florida, in the business community. Through your work, you're in the business of building up communities and strengthening relationships. What can Florida learn from Hispanic communities in Florida, like the Colombian-American community?
Thank you. Definitely what we could learn is that we listen. We have learned the Cuban experience, and we always paid attention to that situation. And I think that's very, very important for us to make sure we listen, we move forward. Latinos in Florida want to be participant. I want to share, Carlos, and my dear friends that are here from the legislature, and my friends, and by the way, thank you very much for being here. Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Alcalde. David, thank you very much. Madam Renner, thank you. And my dear friend and also co-partner down there in South Florida with David, working on these issues. I think it's very important that Colombian Americans, we did a study, and 38% don't vote downline. You know why? Because they don't know candidates. They'll vote up there, but they tell us that the study we did, they just don't know the candidates. So we have to make sure we meet you, we see you. Colombian Americans, 37% do not vote because they don't know the system. So right there, look at the numbers. So we need to make sure, and I would just like to add, as Colombian Americans, we want to be participant. We want to be active. We love to be active. As you have seen, now candidates are coming up all over, and we want to be part of the process. We want to be included. We have worked very hard, and I want to thank the legislature that is here and our friends in the Congress, that we have Colombian Americans in different offices leading that effort that we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that people get educated on the system and all that. To close, Carlos, is very important why I supported this man right here. I've been here many years. I'm not going to tell you about my story, but we forgot about Colombia. We left Colombia in the 90s. We don't want to hear about Colombia. It was all negative news. And one day I met this young man, and he inspired me, and that's what we're talking about, inspire. And he brought us back to Colombia, and I think Adriana very, very clear. He brought us back. He brought Colombia back to us. We had lost a country, and I could understand because I felt like the Cuban Americans and Venezuelans, we lost Colombia at that time. We are afraid now what's going forward. So please, very important, the president is here and the mayor is here. The security issue is very hard. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your sponsorship, Carlos, of this event, Adam Smith Center, LIBRE Association. Thank you very much, and all of you for making this happen. Gracias.
Thank you. Another great Colombian-American, Cesar Grajales, the Director of Public Affairs at the LIBRE Initiative and a first-generation immigrant from Colombia. At the LIBRE Initiative, Cesar promotes American ideals of opportunity and freedom. Cesar, your story is and the story of your family arriving to the U.S. is not unlike the story of millions and millions of immigrants who have come before you. Tell us about your experience and how it shapes the work you do at LIBRE. And if you can also share some of the biggest challenges you face in communicating the messages of freedom and opportunity in the work that you do.
Thank you, Carlos, and good morning, everyone. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Renner, President, it's always an honor to be here with all of you. Well, as you say, Carlos, my story is the story of millions of immigrants that are coming to this country in search of opportunity. And my family and I left Colombia back at the end of the 90s because all the difficulties that we were facing in Colombia, from violence, the guerrillas, and everything that you guys already know. And here in the United States, we find a home that gives us the opportunity that we were losing back then, in a beautiful country. Colombia is a spectacular country. I would say Latin America is a spectacular continent that can provide opportunities for many people. But unfortunately, the lack of leadership in those countries from many governments, obviously, is the one who creates this immigration crisis. When Colombia had the fortune of having a great leader, like the former President Uribe, that was the time when Colombia started inspiring many other countries, but also investment, and then investment returned to Colombia and all the stuff. Now, what I'm seeing in this country, in the United States right now, is the lack of leadership in many different politicians. And as Rep. Borrero and Fabio mentioned, Colombians right now in the United States are huge, I would say a big voting bloc, potential voting bloc. Just in Florida, over 400,000 Colombians live in this state. What we need to do is what Fabio was saying, reaching out the community, the grassroots movement. I think it's important to do that and to tell the Colombians, and not just Colombians, but all the Hispanic community, why we need to elect the right politicians, the right leaders in this country, no people who is bringing the same policies that are failing in many other countries, especially the countries where we left behind. We don't want those policies here. And that's the reason we need to go out there, talk to our communities, Colombians or any other member of our community, and tell them why we need to support right leaders in this country, specifically leaders that bring prosperity for everybody here in Colombia. And I just want to commend Paul Renner, the Speaker Renner, for all his time serving in the legislature, but also his time as a speaker, because his leadership has brought really good policies for the state of Florida. And also the next speaker, Rep. Perez, Daniel Perez, I know he's going to do also a great job here in Florida. And we had great leaders here in the legislature, in the Senate, in the House, but we need to translate that also to at the federal level. In my opinion, I think we need better leadership in Washington, D.C. This year is a great opportunity to mobilize our communities and our people and to tell them that we want the right policies in this country. We don't want the failing policies that we left behind, but also back in our countries of origins, we need to find more people who inspire the same way the former President Uribe inspire Colombians and many other leaders across the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Cesar. I'd like to introduce now the mayor of Tuluá. As Representative Borrero mentioned, I was a faculty member at Harvard for many years, and I taught about presidential politics. Then I got to work in the White House and in the administration for 4 years. So my view of leadership tends to be fairly presidential, but I also recognize that leadership doesn't come just from presidents and from people atop the organization. It also comes from leaders in state government and from leaders at the local government. One of these local leaders is the mayor of the city of Tuluá, Mayor Vélez. He has gone through a lot. He was mayor from 2016 through 2019. He couldn't run for immediate re-election, so he decided to run after the next term. And he has received threats to his life and his family's lives. He couldn't even campaign. During the campaigning season, he could not even campaign at all. Violent criminal organizations even prohibited the media from airing ads on his behalf or putting billboards. Yet he won. He won without even campaigning, because Colombians in his city were fed up with crime. And so his life has been threatened, his family's life, so he understands what public service actually means from a very, very personal level. I'm gonna ask him a question in Spanish. I think he'll answer in Spanish. If you need translation, please let me know, otherwise we'll just let him speak in Spanish. Alcalde, usted ha sacrificado muchísimo para tener el cargo que tiene hoy día. Ha tenido atentados a usted, a su familia. ¿Cómo puede el liderazgo al nivel local influir en la política nacional? ¿Y qué podemos hacer para atraer a buenos líderes a nivel local, no solamente en Colombia, sino en todo el mundo?
Muy buenos días, Carlos. Muchas gracias a todas las personas que hoy nos están acompañando en este recinto. Muchas gracias por la invitación que nos han hecho, a Fabio, el presidente, el speaker, Mr. Speaker, Paul Renner, a su esposa Adriana, que tiene ese sentimiento de arraigo, de amor por nuestra tierra. Compartimos nuestra propia tierra, compartimos nuestra madre tierra, Tuluá.
So the mayor thanked everybody on the panel, and especially Mrs. Renner, for promoting Colombian issues. And I'll just do a very quick summary.
Nosotros tenemos una responsabilidad mayor. Leía un libro y había una frase que me impactaba enormemente, que decía que existe un deber de conciencia en cada uno de nosotros para hacer las cosas que consideremos correctas que se deban hacer, no por nosotros, sino por nuestra gente.
We have a responsibility to do things that are right, not for us, but for our people.
Y tal vez esa es la decisión más difícil, pero más importante que hemos tomado en nuestras vidas, mi esposa y yo, quienes decidimos tomar en ese momento la decisión de volver a ser alcalde de nuestro municipio, un municipio de 230.000, 240.000 habitantes en el Valle del Cauca.
That's why we made that decision to run again for office, the most difficult decision they've made, to be mayor again of a very small community of about 230 to 240,000 people in Colombia.
Tal vez, como lo dice el presidente Uribe, un municipio con una población un poco mayor a la de Tallahassee.
Population a little bigger than Tallahassee's.
Bueno, ese es el liderazgo que hay que tomar en los momentos difíciles. El presidente Uribe nos enseñó hace ya 22 años que había que tomar una decisión en el momento en que había que tomarla. Y cuando estábamos en el momento más difícil en nuestro país, pues él fue presidente de nuestro país en el año 2002. Y cuando pensábamos en esta responsabilidad de esta alcaldía en las elecciones de ahora, de octubre del 2023, muchas veces pensamos en todas las dificultades que podían haber sucedido también y que podían haber tenido muchos de nuestros líderes, incluido el presidente Uribe. Y por supuesto que esa fue una motivación. Y nosotros también queremos ser una motivación, ser una inspiración para quienes están detrás nuestro.
President Uribe taught us 22 years ago that you have to make tough decisions. So he was an inspiration for him to decide to run again for mayor. And so he is also a part of the reason. He's an inspiration for the mayor and for many others.
Nosotros tenemos una responsabilidad y es volver a lograr que nuestra gente en nuestra ciudad, en nuestro territorio, en nuestro estado departamental, en el estado nacional, vuelva a creer en sus líderes políticos, que vuelvan a confiar.
We have a responsibility to make sure that people at the local level, at the provincial level, at the national level, believe again in public service, in their public servants.
Y que con nuestro proceder, con nuestro comportamiento, en el compromiso de hacer las cosas bien y lograr que nuestro país salga adelante, volvamos nuevamente a hacer que la gente tome esa conciencia de esa responsabilidad de que el Estado lo componemos todos los habitantes, y que cada uno tiene que aportar un granito de arena para hacer que podamos crecer, para lograr que podamos avanzar, para lograr condiciones de prosperidad para nuestra gente, desarrollo para nuestra tierra.
And he wants to make sure that through his work and through the work of all public servants, people once again believe in government and believe that they need to contribute also to what the government does and to society.
Quiero decir, como para no alargarme mucho, que yo creo que tenemos la oportunidad de que las cosas sucedan bien. Solamente depende de nosotros, depende de nuestras decisiones, de nuestras actitudes, de querer hacer las cosas bien, de ser esa esperanza, de ser esa ilusión para que la gente vuelva a creer y para que podamos hacer que nuestro país, como lo han dicho ya acá Cesar, como lo ha dicho Adriana, que es un país maravilloso, de gente maravillosa, pueda tener también la posibilidad de poder crecer, que crezcamos conjuntamente. Necesitamos, por supuesto, el apoyo de países avanzados, de países más importantes como los Estados Unidos, porque tenemos que hablar no solamente mejorar la seguridad, de mejorar la tranquilidad para nuestra gente, sino que también debemos hablar de crecer en educación, en formación, en desarrollo social, garantizar un equilibrio entre la inversión rural y la inversión urbana, hacer que se genere una equidad en cada uno de los sectores sociales que hacen parte de nuestra población.
We have that responsibility to give hope to the people, to make sure that we have the right policies on education, the right balance between urban and rural policies. So we have the ability to do things right, and it is our responsibility to do so, once again, to give hope to the people.
Bueno, hoy estamos acá y aprovechamos esta oportunidad y te agradezco mucho, Carlos, que me permitas poder traducir lo que estoy diciendo para las personas que no entienden el español. Estoy inmensamente agradecido por poder estar acá en este espacio y poder compartir en esta mesa con todas estas personas maravillosas, Mr. Speaker, Paul Renner, el presidente Álvaro Uribe y con todas las personas que aquí nos acompañan. Muchísimas gracias, Carlos.
Gracias a usted, alcalde. It's very grateful for the opportunity to be here with everybody. All right, that was a very brief summary. Now, once again, I'd like to recognize the speaker so that he can introduce President Uribe.
Was mayor of Medellin, governor of Antioquia, and then ultimately the president of Colombia from 2002 to 2010, and inherited a situation in which most of the country was controlled by criminal groups, not the government, and was able to inspire people to bring out their patriotism, to turn the country around. And I really do believe that leadership is everything, but so is unity. And he was able to unite the Colombian people behind his vision and turn it back to a place of prosperity and safety. And I love the title of your book, Mr. Presidente, No hay causa perdida. There's no lost cause. So, if you would, Señor Presidente, first of all, un placer tenerte aquí. And tell us a little bit about your journey, what you found when you were coming up as mayor and governor and ascending to the presidency, the problem you faced, how you overcame it. Tell us about, if you would also, what you see Colombia facing now under President Petro, and what vision or what advice you have for us in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Carlos, David, dear colleagues of this panel, Mr. Speaker, Adriana, it is a great honor to participate in this panel. Thank you for your kind and generous invitation. I am very happy to see here many Colombians and one branch of the Barranquilla Carnival. La comparsa de Barranquilla, ¿dónde están los de la comparsa? This is to say that Colombians, in the middle of difficulties, are very happy. I cannot understand why our country, with this enormous amount of problems, our people are a very happy people. Mr. Speaker, life is a process of permanent learning. As mayor, as governor, as senator, I was learning. And today, I have to learn. The process of learning never finishes, never ends. As president, I made a decision to recover confidence for Colombia within the local community and in the international community upon three pillars. Security, but security with the rule of law, with freedoms, with democratic values. The promotion of private investment, small, middle-sized, and big enterprises, and at the same time, social cohesion. Because we need security in many aspects. Physical security. We reduce kidnappings, massacres, homicides. robbery. At the same time, legal security. To invest in any country, you need legal security. You need stable rules. You need political security. You have to lead a speech to promote confidence in the business community, confidence in the workers, confidence in youngsters. It is very important to divide security into the several items. The promotion of private investment. This is the only way to get sustainable resources for the country to overcome poverty and for the country to improve income distribution. I didn't leave the country converted into a paradise. But at the end of my administration, I saw that many Colombians were much more happier than in the previous years of my administration. At the same time, we reduced the size of the government. Our idea is less state payroll and more resources for education, for health. At this moment, I am in the opposition. Our party is the main party of the opposition. But my opposition is not a personal opposition. I have conducted this opposition without offenses against the people of government, but with clarity against their projects. I disagree with the way they are confronting violence. President Petro didn't begin with this violence. This period of violence began with the signing of the peace agreement in the year 2016 for two reasons. This agreement gave full impunity to those of FARC for narco-trafficking. Therefore, we have seen an enormous expansion of narco-trafficking in Colombia. With this illegal business, we are not going to have peace. Because we demobilize some people, but other people wanting to get easy money, immediately get into these illegal businesses. The second reason I consider took this agreement to the failure was this agreement granted full impunity for those immersed, involved in crimes against the humanity. For instance, in the Colombian Congress, you see many former members of FARC who were sentenced for kidnapping against children, for children violation. They didn't go one single day to jail. However, they are in the Colombian Congress. Impunity plus narco-trafficking are invitation for more people to come to become new criminals. I disagree with President Petro because at this moment, my perception is that narco-trafficking continue growing. It is necessary a bipartisan policy here in the United States and a binational policy between the United States and Colombia, because we have this problem. You produce fentanyl, and we produce coca. You have a growing problem of consumers of narcotics, and we have a bigger problem, a growing problem of consumption of the traditional illicit drugs and the consumption of new synthetic drugs. Therefore, we have in both countries the problem of production and the problem of consumption. This problem destroy young people, destroy families, destroy the social fabric of every nation. This is what we have to consider. It is the beginning of the destruction of our democracies. And I disagree with the reforms that President Petro sponsors, that he proposes to Congress. For instance, the labor reform will create many more difficulties for entrepreneurs to create new jobs. I think, Carlos, in Argentina, many people in Argentina say, we cannot create new jobs because every time we create a new job, we are creating the possibility for labor litigations with the workers. For it is very important, the reforms President Milei is trying to introduce in this broader country. I disagree with the health reform. Colombia has advanced a lot in health reform. All the poor people of Colombia have the same possibilities in health that the wealthiest people. It is a system with solidarity, with the participation of the state sector, of the private sector, of non-profit organizations. And President Petro is moving on the way to create a socialist model with a state monopoly. And we disagree with the pension reforms because Colombia has advanced a lot in savings for the future in pensions. The government wants to take a great portion of the pension funds to put them below the state management. My doubt is that in a middle or long term, Colombia will be without pension reserves. And the expansion of the bureaucratic payroll is very concerning. During our administration, we reduced the size of the state, and we say because of the reduction, 5 points to our GDP. President Milei, it is very important to do follow-up. He's proposing to reduce the state size and to save 3 points to the GDP. It would be very important. So far, the news we have received tells us that President Milei has already eliminated the half of the ministries. These are some ideas we have for all the Latin American countries. We agree that we need a much more fair societies. We need to overcome poverty. We need to create a societies with a better income distribution. But we disagree with the way of the socialist government. We believe in freedom. We believe in security. We believe in the promotion of the private sector. These are the determinants to create a society without poverty, with a better income distribution. And of course, we disagree with a big size in the governments. We need smaller governments, very, very smaller governments, to create many more possibilities for health, for education. But when I begin to speak, I am very concerned with myself because of my long speeches. I am very happy to see here many Colombians, within them some with whom I had the privilege to work with. I have seen them after many years. We work together in our administration. It is a great honor, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. We could spend hours and hours asking the president questions. I'm sure the speaker has more questions. I have a lot of questions I would like to ask, but I want to give the audience an opportunity to ask questions. So we have a few minutes for questions, and I'm just going to ask you to raise your hand as you're doing. Tell us who you are, and remember that questions end in a question mark. So one per customer. Let's go right here first.
Carlos, Jarwan Condis.
Yes.
Please talk to me as lowest you can. Because I am almost deaf. It is very bad for being a singer. But
yeah, if you want,
for being a
also so that the cameras pick up the question, you can come up here and ask the way. It's on.
¿On?
Yes.
Okay. Primeramente, señor presidente, déjeme expresarle el honor que yo siento en estar en su presencia y poderme dirigir a usted como el mejor presidente no de América Latina, sino de toda no de Colombia, sino de toda América Latina. Es un gran honor. So my question will be in English. What advice would you give other transformational figures in Latin America, free market reformers such as Javier Milei in Argentina, in general, and specifically to attract foreign investment into their countries, knowing that there's the possibility in 4, 8, or 12 years that they could unfortunately make the wrong decision and elect a Gustavo Petro or some other Foro de Sao Paulo undesirable? Thank you.
Mr. President.
Again, the private sector could be many governmental decisions. One decision is the level of taxes. You see, for example, that Argentina has a very high level of taxes. The people of Argentina used to say that we do not have expropriation, as President Chavez did in Venezuela, but our profits have been expropriated by taxes. Colombia at this moment, in my opinion, is becoming not competitive because of the level of taxes and other problems I have also already referred to. In my opinion, it is necessary to give confidence to the private sector, not as an end, but as a mean. The private sector should be considered as the most important mean to create possibilities to overcome poverty and to having a more fairer income distribution. The volatility in our governments is other threat. Therefore, to avoid volatility, it is necessary to give warrants to the private investors, because at this moment in Argentina, private investors could say, oh, we are very happy with President Milei, with the decisions he's making, but what could happen 4 years hence? Therefore, it is necessary to create conditions in the domestic legislations and with warrants from the international banks to provide the international investors and the domestic investors with the safety that the rules under which they have made the decision to invest will be respected over a long period of time. During our administration, we introduced a legislation that was dropped after the end of our government. Under this legislation, every investor in Colombia, from the domestic community or from the international business community, had the right to sign agreements of stable rules in taxes with the government for a period of 20 years. But in my opinion, because of this volatility, it's not enough in Latin America to have domestic assurances. It is necessary to have some kind of international warrants, for example, guarantees from the IDB, from the World Bank. In addition to the domestic legislation of stable rules, stability, confidence to the private sector, and confidence to the poor people that the way we are promoting the private sector is a way to eliminate poverty and to improve the way of living of the poor people.
So I know there are a lot of questions. We're running out of time, so let's just do two more questions. Let's do 1 and 2. So let's, yeah. If the answers are extra short, we can do a third one, but I would say probably 2. Go ahead.
Buenos días, voy a preguntar la pregunta en español y después en inglés. Mi nombre es Lina María Rojas, es un orgullo tenerlos acá hoy. Muchas gracias Adriana y Speaker Renner por esta oportunidad de reunirnos todos. Mi pregunta es, a pesar de votar por la administración actual, los ciudadanos de pueblos y ciudades como Tuluá están rechazando la corrupción y el crimen. Ambos se mantienen firmes, pero ¿qué más debemos hacer para mantener la seguridad y restaurar la economía? ¿Y qué podemos hacer nosotros acá en el exterior para apoyar la libertad en nuestros países? And can I say it in English now?
Please.
Okay, awesome. Even though they voted with the current administration, the people from Tuluá and other cities are rejecting corruption and crime. What can we do to maintain security and restore the economy? And then how can we help those of us who are abroad to support the prosperity and liberty of our countries? Thank you.
Thank you. Alcalde.
Gracias, presidente. A ver, yo creo que ya estamos haciendo algo. El hecho de poder estar hoy acá, gloria a Dios también que podemos hoy estar acá, es parte de lo que consideramos que puede ser fundamental en el apoyo de las autoridades de este país. Lo que ha propuesto Fabio, lo que ha hecho el Speaker Renner, la gestión de Adriana, de nosotros poder estar acá nos permite visibilizar las condiciones que hoy estamos viviendo. Y no solamente las condiciones de seguridad, sino también poder hablar de cerca con otras personas de nuestras necesidades, de nuestras dificultades, de lo que hoy requerimos del apoyo de quienes tienen la capacidad de hacer algo por nosotros. La corrupción depende de quienes actuamos en el gobierno, de la decisión de hacer las cosas correctamente, de ser transparentes ante la ciudadanía, de seguir los procedimientos y las reglas preestablecidas, de garantizar que la ejecución de los recursos públicos atiendan las necesidades de la comunidad como prioridad en el accionar de cada uno de nosotros como gobernantes que hemos asumido esa responsabilidad que nos ha entregado el pueblo cuando nos elige.
We're already doing a lot by being here. He gave the example of corruption. Corruption is up to government officials. By doing things transparently, they can do a lot to eliminate corruption. Again, a very brief summary in the interest of time.
Y si nosotros hacemos las cosas bien, ese ejemplo que le damos a la ciudadanía, a los ciudadanos, se va a revertir en más confianza, en la condición de pago de los impuestos, en la percepción de que las cosas se están haciendo bien, en la participación y la confianza de la ciudadanía en las instituciones, en las personas que representamos las instituciones, y cuando logramos que eso cambie, entonces comenzamos a avanzar.
So that means that if we do things the right way, that's going to translate into more trust in government, people paying more taxes. So again, it's up to us, government officials, to do the right thing.
Yo lo digo por lo que ya vivimos con la experiencia del presidente en ese periodo 2002-2010, y yo viví mi experiencia como alcalde en el periodo 2016-2019. Cuando hacemos las cosas bien, la gente comienza a creer y la gente vuelve a confiar. Y eso es lo que tenemos que volver a hacer ahora. Y si esa confianza la recibimos a nivel local, seguramente vamos a lograr el apoyo de entidades de orden internacional, del gobierno de los Estados Unidos, del estado de la Florida, para también poder buscar alternativas de solución a nuestras dificultades, a nuestros problemas.
Once again, when we do things the right way, that translates not just into better government locally, but also nationally, and it creates more confidence in other places like the state of Florida, like the United States, and abroad. Mr. President.
During my 2 terms, we did our best to have coordination with all the mayors and governors of the country, regardless their political origins. We work with the same devotion with those in the opposition and with those close to the government. Today I see a new problem in the government. It's the antagonism between the ideas of many mayors and governors and the main ideas and the ideological platform of the central government. 3 items. It is my suggestion. First, to having a sincere and permanent dialogue with the central government, no matter the differences. Second, governors and mayors. They have to try to fill the vacuum left by the central government in accordance with the Constitution and with the legislation. And third, to claim support from communities, from local communities, and to claim from the national government for answers. And to finish this answer, I remember one of my professors. What do you have to do first? To issue orders or to set example? Mayors and governors and political leaders at this moment, before issuing orders, they have to set the example. This is the best way to teach.
Thank you, Mr. President. We were going to do a third question, but we don't have time. However, I do want to highlight the person who was going to ask the third question, a student of the Adam Smith Center who came all the way from Miami to Tallahassee and brought to us 3 letters signed by the president of the student government at Florida International University, thanking the mayor, thanking the speaker, and thanking the president for their leadership. So I'd like to present the mayor with this letter signed by the president of the student government at FIU.
I just want to add very quickly, I want to thank everybody for coming. Thanks to Soul Flowers. Please, when you step out, they have a bouquet of flowers. You take it home and you see Colombia flourish. So thank you very much. Please pick up our flowers and please enjoy our presentation outside.
A letter for the speaker thanking him for his many years of service and for his tremendous leadership. Mr. Speaker. Now for President Uribe, not only a letter that I mentioned, but also the first Triumph of Liberty Award that the center is given. We hope to give this once a year to somebody who has advanced the cause of liberty and who has shown that liberty and freedom do triumph if we have the right leadership.
Excellent.